Hi, welcome to Oh, the People You'll Meet. My name is Stephanie Richardson, and I am so glad that you joined us today. I started this podcast because I meet people at the coolest places, whether it's a coffee shop, the grocery store, on the airplane, through Beachbody, through my kids. I get to meet the coolest people. And what I love about these people is their stories. When I get to hear their stories, I just feel so inspired. And I feel like I can do hard things. I feel encouraged. And so I love these stories so much that I wanted them to be shared, and I wanted you to hear those stories. So that's why we started this podcast. So today we have my great friend Sandi on the call or podcast today. And so I always start with how I met people.
Okay.
So Sandi and I met through Beachbody.
Yes.
And almost 13 years ago. Have you met? Was it been 13 years?
13 in May for me.
Yeah, 13 in. So I came on in March. You came on in May. So
wow.
Yeah, so almost 13 years.
Yeah.
And we've met through training and stuff like that. And then you've coached me through speaking.
A little bit.
A little and a lot. And the best is like, no, you're doing it over again. And coaching me through speaking and through sharing my story and sharing things like that. And through the whole network every week, you help people share their story. And so I felt like that was such a great way to, since this is about people and their stories, you're really good at that. But a lot of people see you behind the you're the one always asking the stories, right? Or, listening. But not a lot of people know your story. And so that's what I want to do today. I wanted to kind of let people hear your story. So
thank you.
Let's kind of go back a little bit to how you grew up and where you grew up and that sort of thing.
Well, not a lot of people know I was born in Italy. My father had taken a job in Italy, and we lived there for a few years, so I was born there. But both of my parents are from Morocco.
Wow.
And so I am Moroccan, Italian, American. I guess I really don't know what I am.
Do you speak other languages?
I do speak French because my parents only spoke to me in French. So I'm fluent in French, and the Italian kind of dissipated once I got to America because I was about 3 years old.
Okay.
And spent most of my life in Los Angeles. I took a few jobs that were outside of Los Angeles. I lived in San Francisco for 10 years. I lived in Florida for about 3 or 4 years. And I went to UCLA.
We just drove by there yesterday. It's such a beautiful campus.
It's massive.
It's so
massive
big,
campus.
Yes.
I went to UCLA and I majored in sociology, which is interesting. The other day I was thinking, wow, I'm finally using my major after all these years. I'm really working with people and human behavior.
Yes.
And let's see. I took a job. My first job out of college was with a retail company that's now defunct, I think, called Esprit.
Oh, yes.
And
I loved their clothes. I had to have,
favorite job in the world. And I moved to San Francisco and worked for them for 10 years. And then I worked for them in Germany. So I moved to Germany and I took a job with Esprit Europe. And I was in retail operations. So what I would do is I would open stores, I would hire people, I would train people, I would set up the POS system.
Yes.
And it was a really, really great job. And so that's like my favorite job.
That sounds so fun. I loved their clothes. Like I was like, it was like a big deal if you had Esprit clothes.
Big deal.
That was like a really big deal. So growing up in LA, did you want to be like in theater and like was that ever like something that you were like you were a part of that?
There was. I started out wanting to be a ballerina.
Okay.
So I did ballet for about 10 or 11 years, and then I just stopped cold turkey. I just said, that's it. I don't want to do it anymore. And I wanted to be a cheerleader.
Okay.
So I was a cheerleader. And then I auditioned for the Laker girls, actually.
You did?
Yes. And I was extremely short to be a Laker girl. So
you had to be tall.
And that's going to be my justification for why I didn't make it.
Oh, I think that's a good justification. Like, I was just not tall enough.
There's
nothing you can do about that. That's how you were made.
Nothing you can do.
So, so kind of you started kind of in training and that sort of thing. And so then so you were in Germany, came back.
Esprit took me into that world of retail sales. I taught people how to sell the apparel and
How to fold the clothes.
How to fold the clothes. You should see my closet. And after Esprit, I'm trying to think what was after that. I took a job with Planet Hollywood. And Planet Hollywood, I don't know if you remember Planet Hollywood.
It
was a restaurant chain, but they also had a merchandising area, and I was in charge of all of their merchandise. It was a $200 million business, and I was the director of retail.
Oh my goodness.
So I was the one that would hire the people and train the people and sell the merchandise. That was like 40% of the total business. It was a very big job, and it took me to many, many countries because we opened all over the world.
Yeah.
And I remember this one day I said, I don't want to fly anymore. I am done flying. I want to settle down. And it was at that point that I met my husband and we settled down in Los Angeles. And we started a family. Yes.
You're just like, I'm going to stop. And now all of a sudden it just all worked out for you.
Well, it's a little longer story than that. I don't know if you have time on this podcast, but I do have a very funny husband story.
Okay, you have to tell it. You have to tell it because you've already
leaked it out.
You've already leaked it.
My husband and I come from parents who despised each other. Yes. Yes. So my parents were Moroccan Jews, and so were his parents, and they came from Europe. My parents came from Morocco. His parents came from Morocco, but then they went to France and came to America. And they started the first synagogue here that was of like Moroccan descent.
Okay.
So when they started that synagogue, they were on the board. What do you call that? Like the founders.
Right.
And they were not friendly with one another. Couldn't stand each other, fighting all the time. My parents used to come home from a meeting going, we cannot stand those people. And his parents would come home and say, we cannot stand those people. Fast forward, my husband and I meet and fall in love, and we tell our parents we're getting married.
It's like the Romeo and Juliet.
It is.
For real.
And so it's been quite a ride.
Are they friends now?
They are. Well, they tolerate each other, but it was definitely a surprise to my parents that I was marrying.
It was like you were doing it on
enemy.
Purpose or something.
Yeah, fell in love with the enemy.
Yeah.
So,
oh, that's so cute. So y'all married and you decided to have babies?
Got married, started having children, and was a stay-at-home mom for a few years until I couldn't do it anymore. I love being productive. I love working. Took a job. I worked at Herbalife for a few years.
Okay.
Before Beachbody.
Okay.
And I was working as a consultant and creating all their training materials for all their distributors.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
You could tell us a couple things.
And, there's been other jobs in between there, but that's really, my career kind of went in that path. It was sales, it was training, and it was what I was good at. And then the Beachbody job was really started out as I was just creating training materials, and then I went into coaching.
The crazy part of you starting those materials, because that was right when Beachbody started, so there really wasn't any training materials, there wasn't anything. Exactly. So you basically started it all right from there, and so that's pretty incredible. It's not like you went in and tweaked something. There was nothing. There was
nothing. I built the first coach kit, we called it, right? The coach kit. And it was, everything you need to know about our products and everything you need to know about starting a business. And I was just making it up as I was going along. And then I was talking to people like you that were out in the trenches and that were building a business. So I learned from you guys, even, more than you guys were learning from me. So I took me to, how I do the storytelling on the National Wake Up Call is I interview people and I find out what makes them tick.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I'm very fascinated by human behavior.
And their stories.
Overcoming challenges, and their will, their determination and will. It gives me drive.
It does.
Yeah.
And so you've learned a lot over the years, and probably a lot of failing forward in that situation because we didn't know what we were doing. You probably interviewed me and I was like, oh, this is what works, and then it didn't, maybe later or whatever. And so that was already
things that worked years ago don't work now. Things that worked last month don't work now. So,
exactly.
It was a lot of work in progress. We were a startup. Yeah. When I came here to Beachbody, it was a startup company. And so to be part of it, the building of it, the foundation of it, I know where all the bodies are buried,
Yeah.
I know where everything is. So it's like I'm this walking encyclopedia of facts about a company. But, years ago, I think, so I was doing this national wake-up call. 9 years. I've been doing this call every week.
So for those that don't know, Beachbody every Monday morning has a thing called National Wake Up Call. And we interview a different coach and kind of they share their story and then kind of what's working for them right at that time. And then they share their story kind of before Beachbody and now what it's like after Beachbody kind of. Is that what you would say?
Exactly. I mean, it's a weekly motivational call. And I was the background person, just making sure that it was on the phone. That was the funny part is people would call in on the phone and the phone wouldn't work.
The conference line.
The conference line would crash because 500 people were on it. Now it's like 50,000 people and it's on Facebook Live. But I think what happened for me was a big growth for me because I was always the co-anchor, and the anchor left the company and they were kind of looking for a new anchor. And I was like, hello, I've been doing this, 8 years.
I can probably do it.
I can pull it off. And so they made me the lead host on it. And so I got to make my own changes to it. And I've been working on my interviewing skills. I mean, I listen to podcasts and I watch Oprah and Ellen and to see how to interview in a way that pulls the real essence out of people. And it's not just a question answer. It's really more conversational, more organic. Mm-hmm. So what might seem like a script is really just a way for me to understand better the human behavior. And I like what I do because every single week it's a different person. So they may be saying the exact same thing, like how to make an apple pie.
Right.
But they make it totally different and they have a different take on it. Uh-huh. And that's the part that keeps me going because it's different.
And it's interesting. How do you get those stories out of people? Because obviously stories is really important. And so do you feel like people hold back on their stories? I always think people make excuses for their stories. Like, what have you learned?
I don't think that people know they have a story. And I think that when you start talking to people and you keep digging, mm-hmm. keep asking like you're doing right now, you find some gems. And they would not, like if you had just given them a piece of paper that says, please answer all these questions before we talk, they're just going to answer them very basic, what they think you want. But when you are in a conversation with somebody over the phone or over a Zoom call or something, you start to find commonalities and relationships and start building, and people become more comfortable and they trust you, uh-huh. and they give you an answer that's a little bit more real.
Instead of just like the cookie cutter answer.
Yeah, like it's not a survey. You're not answering a survey. You're really just, curiosity is the biggest thing. Yeah. I learned that from my father. He's curious about everything. He asks everybody everything. And
asks questions and
yeah.
Is he a people person?
Yeah, he's incredible, and he's somebody that wherever he goes, I always tell people this. If you were at a restaurant or a store or something and somebody helps him, he's like, I'd like to speak with your manager. And they always get really, like, why? He goes, because you've been an incredible salesperson and I want them to know it. And he said to me one time, managers never get credit. They're kind of the forgotten middle person, right? So if you go to the manager and say, you're doing a great job with Stephanie, that manager feels so good. And then that manager also goes back to Stephanie and says, you did a great job with him. Thank you. So he's very much into honoring that middle management. He thinks that that is something that will explode. And I know, very nice. So
oh my gosh, I want to meet. He's 94, you said earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, so cute. Okay, we're going to get to your trip in just a minute, but I want to hear one of the really cool things that, you know, we were working together a couple years ago, and you were like, hey, I'm not going to be able to be at this Beachbody event because I got this really cool opportunity. And so I wanted you to share the story of that opportunity that you got.
I was asked to apply for this trip that is to Israel, and it is for Jewish women who have children of formative years, so high school aged kids. And it's called Birthright, and they do have the program for young, like 18-year-olds, but this was a birthright for moms because they felt like there's a program for young teenagers, but the moms are kind of the forgotten generation, and they felt as though the learning that you would get and the community that you would get as moms, you would then go back and be an even better mother to your children and better educate them on Jewish traditions and philosophies. So I applied and I got in, and I went on a trip with 40 women for about 2 weeks. And it was all around Israel, and we learned about amazing things in Israel that you read about in Bible study and stuff like that. But more so than that, I was with women that were around my age and wanting the same things as me, wanting to be a better mother, wanting to be a better Jewish mother, wanting to better educate my kids in the religion. And it changed me. And it when I came back from the trip, part of the trip, by the way, it's completely paid for, 100%.
That's so wild.
And the only thing
in Israel.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Everything, hotel and food and everything. And the only thing that they ask is that you commit to a constant learning group. So this would be an 18-month growth group, we call it. Mm-hmm. So that when you come back from the trip, it's not just one and done. Oh, I had a great time, it's over. I want to continue my learning of the Torah and learning of these women and learning of the Jewish traditions. So I did that, and it's now been 3 years. I'm still a part of the growth group, and it's been incredibly fulfilling for me because I originally wanted to go on the trip because I just wanted to meet women, you know, in the community that were like me, same struggles with teenagers, same struggles with the religion, you know, wanting to do more, wanting to give back more. So I did that, and it just it changed me. One of the most important things that it taught me is that the mother is like the lighthouse of the house. Like, we give the light to everything. We light everybody else's light. We set the tone for the home. So if you're going to have like a Friday night Sabbath dinner, it's the mother who makes sure that happens and sets the tone for the whole week. It's really very beautiful.
That you have such an impact on your family. Did you feel like you had an impact on your family before that?
Kind of. I think that those kinds of traditions, I grew up like that. I grew up Orthodox, so I had those traditions, but I kind of just let it all go. And
so for those who don't know, the Orthodox is probably the most religious of the Jewish.
Yes.
So Orthodox, and then it's conservative, and then Reform.
Yes.
And so the Orthodox is the most. So that is the ones that really carry on a lot of the older school traditions.
They attend synagogue regularly. They have the Sabbath dinner Friday night.
Do they drive on Saturday?
They don't drive. They don't use, no cell phones, and it's incredibly peaceful. It's an incredibly peaceful thing to just reconnect with your family. People don't know it, but we call it Shabbat. Shabbat is the holiest of all holidays in the Jewish religion. So when people say Rosh Hashanah and all that, like, yeah, okay. But every Friday night is the holiest of all Jewish holidays.
Wow.
So, and it makes sense too, because it's like when you're the most connected, you know, like at Christmas and Easter, you're very connected to your family. And when you go to church, you're very, very connected. But we have that every single Friday night, and Saturday is like at the highest amount of connection. So.
Did you know that there's a lot of actually Christians that are starting to bring in that into their families?
Yes.
Because they know we need more connection. We need to unplug. We need that sense of family. And in order to do that, you have to shut it all down. And so creating those traditions within their family. I was just listening to a podcast the other day, like a Christian author who has started it in his family. And they do like really fun games together. They have like this whole tradition that they are starting in their family, you know, the same, you know, so that it's like a Shabbat dinner.
Yeah.
But, you know, because that is something we're missing, you know, so many families.
Well, you know how it is here in America on Christmas Day, you will not find a car on the road.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's like that in Jerusalem every Friday. It feels like the whole country is stopped. There's nothing
on Fridays,
open.
Like what time?
No
on
one's
Fridays?
driving.
Like
sundown to sundown. It's like
so Saturday's that way too. So no one's out on
till
Saturday.
Sundown. So Saturday night you can go out.
Okay,
so it's Friday night at like 5-ish, 6-ish to Saturday. But I was thinking about it when I was there. I was like, this is beautiful. Everybody is doing this, even if they're not Jewish. It's like in Jerusalem, everything just shuts down. That's it. Just connect with your families. Doors are open. You can walk into somebody's house and just have dinner. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's just beautiful.
Do you find that it's hard to do that in the United States, like with your family? Do you find like that's hard to like?
No, because I grew up that way. So Friday night we couldn't go out. Friday night it was dinner with the family, and if you went out with friends, it was no.
You were like,
yeah, go out Saturday night.
Yes. Yeah. And then all day Saturday, did y'all hang out together? I guess go to
Saturday
to
you would go to temple, and Saturday is just like most people's Sundays, like not a day to go shopping. You know, it's a day of rest and commitment to God, I guess. But I mean, it's tough with kids that have activities and things. So.
But I mean, how beautiful is that? I mean, just
I'm
that
good with Friday night. I'm not good with Saturday. Because Saturday we have a lot going on.
With soccer, and that is hard because it's so countercultural, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it's so important for your family too, you know, for your family
there's
bond.
And sports on Sundays. So.
Yeah, there is
Jewish sports.
Jewish sports. That's smart. So I love that like totally changed your life, and so let's talk a little bit about we learned today, which I kind of think you had told me this before, but you only live 14 miles from corporate office.
She's going to hang on this one.
But your commute is an hour and a half.
Everybody's commute is an hour at least.
So what do you do during that hour and a half of your commute?
I listen to your podcast.
Yes.
You know, you want to live in the suburbs because the houses are bigger and it's quieter. I mean, I could live in the city. I could live near my work, which is in Santa Monica. But I chose to take a job that's 14 miles from my house, but it takes at least an hour to get anywhere. Wow. So if somebody invites you to go out, you have to add
an hour.
Yeah. So it's not freaky to anybody that lives here.
That's just normal. Well, I live in the country, and I kind of complain about it because I'm like, it takes me 30 minutes to get to shopping, and I like totally complain about it. So I guess I should stop complaining about it.
Well, I thought a long time ago that if I was going to complain about it and be miserable about it, then I should quit my job.
That's true. But
I
can't
didn't
quit your job. We won't let you.
Well, I decided that I needed to find a way to accept my predicament, and so that's when I make my phone calls. Yeah. That's when I listen to podcasts. I listen to music, and I'm very okay with the traffic.
But you've like also used that time for you and for, you know, kind of development and stuff. And you talk about that a lot, even on the National Wake Up Call, like you're listening to things. Yes. What are your favorite podcasts you're listening to right now?
I listen to The Daily just to get like a quick wrap up of news. I listen to How I Built This. I love that because really I love listening to entrepreneurs, how they built. I have so many that I keep I'm like drawing a blank right now.
Well, there's a lot out there.
Yeah, but there's
that How I Built This I've heard is like so good.
Hidden Brain, I love. Second Life, and Super Soul Conversations with Oprah.
Oprah?
Yeah. I do like Oprah a lot because I think that she is so skilled as an interviewer.
Right.
So, I really
so you're learning a lot from her.
I am.
That's so good. So tell me about how has it been raising kids with a career? Because you said you were a stay-at-home mom, and so then you went back to work. And so how did you kind of navigate that?
I've really always liked working. Stay-at-home mom was really not for me, and I've even tried working from home. Not for me either.
Really? Because someone asked, they were like, "Can she work from home?" And I was like, I don't even know if she works from home. But
I think I like coming into the office because you collaborate with your coworkers, you work on projects, and at home, I get distracted with laundry, dinner, all that. And there have been times when I've stayed at home. It's like, how do you get anything done when you have kids and you pick them up from school and stuff? So it was not for me to work from home. And how I've juggled it is I have a great husband, so he's a caterer, and most of his work is at night. Okay. So it's weekends, evenings. So we do have a division of responsibility.
Right.
I work all day. He can take the kids to school. He can pick them up.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then he's mostly weekends for catering or weeknights, but we've made it work, and it's because I have him.
Right. Y'all kind of figured out how to do that as a team. I always think that you can't have two. I'm sure there are, but I always feel like there's got to have someone in the marriage that has some kind of flexibility if you're going to have kids, because when you both have 9 to 5 careers, it's really hard.
And Beachbody has been really very flexible. I mean, I'm pretty autonomous.
Yeah.
And you don't get that with a new job. You get that with a job where they trust you and they know you've got this and they don't have to micromanage you.
We were talking about that yesterday. We're wondering if businesses will start to go where it's like you don't have to check in, you just have to get your stuff done. Like it's not. I wonder if
you don't punch a time clock
it's
anymore.
not an 8 to 5. It's just get your stuff done, and then you're good.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely don't want to be micromanaged.
Yeah. What do you think has been the most interesting thing? Is like hearing these stories from all these coaches. Like, what is it? I mean, what do you think is the most interesting part of that?
I would say resilience. I think that people who have experienced tragic life events, either with illness or loss or bankruptcy or anything. I mean, the fact that they're able to pick up the pieces and continue on is very, very impressive. I think about when I first had a baby. Never in my life would I be on social media with a new baby. I didn't even take the baby out for 3 months. The doctor said, don't do that. So I just think so much has changed, and people are just like bounce right back up. They have a kid, and like they go to our big convention, the summit, 20,000 people with their baby that was just born yesterday. So I think that surprises me, and it also inspires me. What else do I like about about stories of interviewing people? That's a really good question. Yeah. It makes me really enjoy what I do because everybody has a different approach to life.
Yeah.
Just depending on their upbringing, depending on their age. I find that when I'm interviewing people that are fresh out of college, I just cannot believe how gung-ho they are.
And how much they can do now, that like so many opportunities that they have that we probably didn't have, you know, at their age. I think that's so interesting to see that.
I think it's a lot of navigating, and it's really impressive. They're very mature I guess it's the social media age. Like they understand how it all works, but
it makes me want to take a nap, pretty much. I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all wear me out.
Surfing the net puts me to sleep, actually. I'm like, okay, time to go to bed.
It's time to go to bed. I don't have time for this. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Okay, so usually I end my podcast asking a couple questions. So one is, what is your best parenting advice?
That things happen for you, not to you.
Oh, yeah.
So I have teenagers and a kid in college, and they go through emotional stuff of school and life and friends, and they get upset about things, and I say, just remember, it's a lesson. Like, I think they hate when I say, that's a lesson learned. Everything that's happening to you is, for your growth. So I do think that is my best parenting advice.
Don't you think that's such good advice? Because I think a lot of times we just want to, like, I can't believe that's happening to you. Let's go fix it. I want to go fix it. But I always think that too with my boys, like, the times that they've had the most growth are like the hardest times for them, whether it's disappointments or hurt or whatever. And it's such a good lesson, like, for
disappointment them. Is hard.
It is hard. As a parent, it's super hard to watch, What is your biggest parenting do-over, if you had one?
Oh my gosh. Parenting do-over. I guess I would just say babying them. You
babied them too much when they were little?
Not when they were little. Now, like, like, where are you going? I'm tracking you. What are you doing?
Don't have Life 360?
How come you're over there?
Don't have Life 360?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And I told them, if I'm going to pay for your phone, I get to see where you are.
Yes.
It's just safety issues.
Do you have that with your oldest? Does he have Life 360?
Yes, and he's totally cool with it.
We were going to take it off, our oldest, and we didn't because we didn't take it off. We said he could take it off. He didn't.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, except for when he's coming in back, from an hour and a half.
I'm not stalking them.
Yeah.
I'm just checking when I need it. That's
that makes
all.
Me feel better.
It's just there. It's an insurance policy. Yes. Yeah.
So, I want to go back. So you're going on so your granddad, your dad is 94.
Yeah, my dad.
Your dad is 94. So you're the youngest of 3 girls.
Yes.
And so something cool you were telling me about him tell me a little bit about his little thing y'all are about to do.
So my father comes from Morocco, and he, as he's aging, he wants to see some things and people, and say kind of goodbye. He may not be back there again.
So y'all are going to Morocco.
We're going to Morocco. He took one of my sisters about 8 years ago on a personal, like, father-daughter trip, and he took my middle sister, and then he kept bothering me. He said, I've taken your 2 sisters. I haven't taken you. I said, Dad, it's okay. I see you all the time. He lives just a mile away from me. I said, we can go to Costco. That's a good trip. We can get everything we want there. And he said, I really want to take you. So we are planning a trip to Morocco to visit the country where he grew up, his mother country.
That is so cool.
See where he got married, and I can see where he lived, and he can show me where he bought his groceries, whatever. And he was one of 9 children. So they grew up pretty poor, like 9 kids in 2 bedrooms. And no elevator in the apartment building, and I think it was on the 7th floor, and he's always telling us funny stories that
maybe that's why he's 94 and so healthy.
Yep, he is healthy. He drinks the shake that we sell
he
here.
Does?
Yes.
Good boy.
Yeah.
Does he speak French?
Yeah, my father speaks 4 languages. So growing up in Morocco, they learned French and Arabic.
Okay.
And then he studied Hebrew in school, and he speaks English. Mm-hmm. And we lived in Italy for 10 years, so he speaks Italian fluently.
Oh, wow.
So he is the guy you want to travel with, because no matter where you go, he can translate
he can translate to you.
It's like, I can help you.
So was that interesting being in Los Angeles as a Moroccan? Like, was that different? Or, because you're like an immigrant family, right? Was that, did you notice that or no?
I think what I noticed growing up, my parents didn't speak any English. So when my friends would come over to the house, they were like, your parents don't speak any English.
And they didn't know that about you until they came over to your house?
Yeah. And I refused to speak in French to my parents because I didn't want my friends to think I was weird.
Yes.
Know? And also my mother would make all these funky dishes like liver or brain or something. And my friends would go, what is that, a tongue sandwich? I was like, yeah, it's really good. But yeah, they were immigrants and they didn't speak the language. So it was odd at first, but when you grow up that way, you don't really, I wasn't ostracized or anything.
Right, but it was just different. And so how did they learn the language? Or does he still speak French?
My father's pretty fluent in English. My mother never really took to being fluent in English, so she stayed speaking French the whole time. But I did want to say that Los Angeles has almost the same weather as Morocco.
Oh, really?
Yes. So when they came to America, they wanted to go somewhere that was warm, and it's like almost same equator, like where the equator is. So
did they find like a community, like a kind of a Moroccan Jewish community? I mean, I'm guessing so, because they had that.
Because then they built the synagogue.
But there was other Moroccan.
There were other Moroccan Jews who came
and
from.
So it kind of was like they kind of found like an area.
They
it was like
found
kind of
each
an area.
other.
Yeah.
And they decided, hey, you know what? Let's build a synagogue like we had in Morocco. And so they did that, and that's when they met my husband's parents.
That they love so much.
That they love so much.
Oh my goodness. So I guess they cooked Moroccan food as well too.
Yes.
So do you cook Moroccan food?
I do. Even though my husband is a caterer, he cooks every night, but he cooks mostly American food. I think if it's Moroccan food, I have.
Oh yeah, because he's Moroccan too.
Yeah.
So he knows how to cook Moroccan as well. So he cooks just like American food, but like, what is your favorite Moroccan dish?
Probably couscous. But the real way couscous is done, not the box with water. Like this is like a 2-hour steaming session, and then you put vegetables all over it, and you can eat it with cinnamon and sugar. But couscous is supposed to be fluffy and airy and yummy, and
it has cinnamon and sugar on it.
Well, you can eat it that way.
Oh,
it's
like is it dessert?
It's steamed and hot. No, it's like dinner.
That's how they make it.
That's how they make it in those big. They call them a tagine. And then what are other things that I like? Lots of cumin. A lot of dishes have cumin in it, and paprika. Just all those Mediterranean flavors is yummy.
So good. Okay, I'm gonna have to try it. I'm gonna try Moroccan food. What is your favorite workout?
From here, from Beachbody?
Yes.
Well, I do have a favorite. It's an oldie but a goodie, Power 90, which was our first program ever. And then P90X was an old favorite. But I think now I'm loving the nutritional programs.
Right.
Both of them.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I do too. I love them. Okay. Well, you were so sweet to share your story, and now I get to try Moroccan food. I cannot wait.
Moroccan food. And you need a trip to Israel.
I do. I really do. In fact, my son's graduating this next year, and so that was on our docket for next fall. And there was a trip, and I said, Jeffrey, we're going to go on this trip with some people we know, and it's leadership weekend. Oh. They're gone during leadership, so I can't go. But
can you just do a couple days of that leadership and then
maybe no? It's like during that whole week. So, but
it's worth it. I mean, like especially Jerusalem, it's like it's not just Jews; it's Christianity, Muslim, Jewish. There are so many faiths that come together. It's so powerful. It's an incredible trip. The Dead Sea.
I cannot.
It's just beautiful, and learning about the culture makes you think differently about the country.
Yeah. That's awesome. Can't wait to go. Okay. Thank you so
much.
So glad you
came here.
I'm so glad I got to see you.
Thank you.